JP. Hey, man, how you doing?
I'm
Stream with YouTube. Just stand by. Actually, they can't hear me because it's not live streaming right now, but it will momentarily. YouTube gets glitchy sometimes. But anyway, all that to say, hey, JP.
howdy.
All right, we got a great show laid on for you today. You know, it's Wednesday, middle of the week, 4 p.m. on Wednesdays. Grand Council with Jeff Poor and Dale Jackson both calling in, pinging us all each other with questions, and we just kind of see where the chips fall. And sometimes we disagree and still love each other anyway when it's over with. But yeah, the Grand Council coming up at the top of the third hour, and then I still got a triple dipper filled up with stuff. So hit it, man.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right, the Triple Dipper, 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. First out the gate, it's today. It is today. Real ID goes into effect today. So we're going to talk about it. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. What do you think or feel about the fact that you had to have this Real ID? I got opinions. I got thoughts. And by the way, I don't have a Real ID yet, so still working on that piece. But nonetheless, it is in effect. It is not being deferred. Real ID right now for all American citizens. We'll talk about it. Coming up, number 1, Triple Dipper. Number 2, Trump trolling. Look, I'm just going to be honest with you. There's trolling and then there's Trump trolling. This is some next level trolling. This is the bully pulpit being put into a snark that is literally leaving people dizzy in the wake of it, and they don't know what to do. And Trump's living rent-free inside their heads because he's like the king of trolling. Well, I got examples. I even got audio clips. We'll talk about that. Number 2, Triple Dipper, Trump trolling. And then number 3, this is serious. And I think we need to look at Birmingham this way. Stopping the doom loop. The doom loop, they call it. It's a gloomy name, but yeah, the doom loop is when a municipality begins to slip further and further away into decay that it can't quite recover. And there are cities in this nation that are like that right now. Former boom towns that are now not. And some that are still gems, but they're fading quickly. We'll talk about the doom loop and how that might even apply to our listening area. All right, that's number 3 on the Triple Dipper. I am being told by the techno whiz who sits across from me that we now have YouTube up and running, so that's great, good news. And I will jump into the Rightside Way monologue. And I'll just tell you right now before I even start, Attorney Stan McDonald is the sponsor daily of the Rightside Way monologue. Stan McDonald, partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee, been practicing for 30 years, longtime conservative, and oh, by the way, sponsor daily of the Rightside Way monologue, and I'll tell you more about him in just a minute. All right, let me just say this. Okay, so stupid is as stupid does, according to the great philosopher Forrest Gump. And we need to keep the stupid tamped down, but there's a lot of it. A whole passel of stupid is out there, and we are rooting it out one stupid at a time. But we can't lay back on it. We can't do this halfway. I mean, whether it be DEI or corruption or woke spending or bad trade relations or dudes in women's sports or lack of military readiness or whatever. The fact is, there's a whole lot of stupid that the left is ingrained in our society, and we have to be vigorous about rooting it all out. There was a scene in the movie Gladiator in which Maximus looked at Senator Gracchus and he said, "The time for half measures and talk is over, Senator." Well, I'll add to that with something that Ronald Reagan said. He said, "The future does not belong to the faint-hearted, it belongs to the brave." We don't have the luxury of sitting idle. I mean, there's a true movement right now afoot in our culture to undo our culture, our traditions, our liberties. And it's happening on a daily basis, and I'm concerned what our nation would have looked like if we had been forced to endure another 4-year Biden-style term. That's why I'm so much in favor of the stand that the Trump administration is taking to root it all out and put common sense back in the forefront, law and order back in vogue, responsibility back on the front burner. And it is calculated, it is well thought out, it is smoothly implemented, and it's in the progressive left's face every single day. And with the backing of legal precedent and with overwhelming public support, Trump's team is moving well past half measures and talk, and there's nothing stupid about this. What's stupid is what they're finding. He's taken the hard stands that he was elected to take, and we are watching a team that he's put in place that is engaged and is engaging in the full measure of what they can do, and it's working. And they are rallying true support from real Americans and people who see what's at stake. Look, one of my favorite passages from Scripture is 1 Chronicles 12. In that passage, we are told about a group who became known as David's mighty men. I've always pictured the close-knit group of guys who fought with William Wallace and Braveheart, right? That's what I picture when I think of David's mighty men. sitting around the fire, swapping stories, then going to battle. Warriors who could handle themselves in battle despite the odds, and there wasn't a touch of stupid in them. Nobody was known as rash, disorderly, or undisciplined. And one of the groups within David's mighty men was known as the sons of Issachar. It was said of them that they were, quote, men who understood their times with knowledge of what Israel should do. And to me, there's multiple examples right now kind of in that vein of what I'm talking about. People who understand their times and what it is they're supposed to be, like this Trump team we've got. I like what I'm seeing. I like what they're doing. I like Vance at VP, Hegseth at Defense, Rubio at State, Patel at FBI, RFK at Health and Human Services, Noam at Homeland Security, Homan at the border, Zeldin at EPA, and more. It's like every day there's a buffet of choices about which one of them rooted out more stupid stuff and laid it bare for the world to see, and then went and took an axe to it, and then moved on to find more. And the stories abound, y'all. But I'll tell you what, there may not be anything that matches the rooting out of stupid more than what we're seeing with Doge. Doge is rooting out stupid like nobody's business. A bunch of smart guys and techno whizzes who are literally combing the books of every corner of every agency and every department and shining a light in the darkest recesses of the accountings and finding layer upon layer of stupid. Well, let me read you a short list that I just pulled this morning from a source blog on medium.com. Each one of these is real. Wait for it. And the sourcing of them is right there. Like $2.3 million for a study on whether cats prefer Zoom calls over FaceTime. What? Yeah, because, inquiring minds need to know if, Mittens likes a crisp HD video call or the smooth interface of FaceTime, right? That's in Government Grant Report 2024. How about $750,000 for the development of scented air for Mars colonies? I didn't know we were on Mars, but it might be important that future astronauts to Mars can actually smell artificial grass being cut, I'd guess. $5 million for a gold-plated conference table for a business or a department that has been in remote work category and doesn't even use the table. $5 million for a table. $1.2 million for a reality show about bureaucracy. Really? So we're spending bureaucratic money for bureaucratic functions for a show about bureaucracy. $400,000 for a research project on whether or not ducks enjoy classic music. You heard me, ducks. Ducks, do they enjoy classic music? Is it Mozart or Beethoven? The government spent nearly $500,000 to settle whether or not the avians deserved certain types of classical music. $1.8 million for a study on the psychological effects of losing rock, paper, scissors. What? How about this? Suck it up and drive on or play again. But apparently the agony of defeat in a game of chance requires a multi-million-dollar deep dive into human emotions. How about $3.5 million on training pigeons to deliver Wi-Fi signals? You heard me. It was dubbed Project Birdfi. It was like an ambitious plan to tie internet hotspots onto birds' backs so they would be all over the place. The reports were they mostly flew away and it didn't work. Look, as ridiculous and mock-worthy as those things sound, there's also been, though, a true rooting out of stupid graft and corruption, all mixed in. Sometimes the money really does have a trail. Sometimes it leads to layers of more stupid with a touch of evil built to it. Like a story that broke this morning on Daily Wire. An investigative report that apparently is just now coming to light, and Daily Wire got the exclusive. You may remember a month or so ago when liberal heads began exploding as Doge dug into USAID and found out that we've been paying for wokeness all over the world. USAID is largely gone now, thank goodness, but there was one sub-agency called the African Development Foundation that ran on USAID funding. The African Development Foundation, and they had a CFO, a chief financial officer, named Matthew Zawi. Okay, and Matthew Zawi refused to allow Doge access to their books. He also declared he would not recognize the new Trump appointee who was designated to serve as the chairman of his board. Yeah, Zawi. Okay. Doge had to physically take over the building with help from the U.S. Marshals back in March. And what we're learning now is that whistleblowers have been saying for several years that Mr. Zawi was getting some major kickbacks. Employees of the African Development Foundation whispered about mysterious offshore bank accounts, sole source no-bid contracts. Daily Wire just got access to a search warrant that specifically shows that one contractor in Africa is owned by an associate of Zawi and received some rather large contracts, after which the FBI now asserts they can see direct funds going into Zawi's personal bank account from the same company that got the no-bid contracts. And then there were the strange offshore accounts in places like Ghana that had $2 million wired from Zowi's office that did not have the proper signatures on it to approve it. Zowie says nothing to see here, but he admits he had not informed Doge about the offshore accounts that are scattered around Africa. Just so you know, the Africa Development Foundation has now been shut down, along with its sugar daddy USAID. But y'all, this is what happens when stupid is allowed free rein. When money flows like water and nobody dares to ask questions. Except now, yeah, they're asking questions, and it's real. It's real stupid. It's real stupid doing what stupid does, and we're rooting it out one stupid at a time. And what I love about all this is that it's not only fixing stupid problems, it's also raising awareness. Because you see, every city, every state has their own layers of this kind of stuff. There is stupid in your home station right now. And people would do well to ask the questions. And leaders, real leaders, would do well to act. You see, conservatives everywhere are getting busy. They're somewhat inspired by what they see, and I'm glad of it. People who have never gotten involved in anything more than Sunday school are now leading calls for change, organizing groups to lobby their elected officials. Local and state politicians are taking notice. State houses are seeing the formation of state-level freedom caucuses. Moms are questioning school boards. Libraries are being brought back in line. And there's a sense of purpose and conservatism right now, like maybe more than we've seen in recent memory. And these are smart moves to root out stupid stuff. The truth is, we just want our country back. We aren't spoiling for an actual fight. We're not screaming for blood, but there is no effort for insurrection. Donald Trump is not a tyrant. We are not stupid, but we can see stupid from here. And we are indeed fully and completely aware of our times, and we have knowledge of what America should do. And the time for half measures and talk is over. And that's a wrap for the Right Side Way. Yeah, the layers of stupid that they are rooting out right now, not just in Doge. I mean, it's things like what Lee Zeldin's doing at EPA and what they're doing at energy and what they're doing at transportation. I mean, it's just unbelievable, the things they're finding that have been going on behind the scenes. Smoky backroom deals for sure. Stupid is as stupid does. Let's stop the stupid. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. Have mercy. All right, we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Just saving the world. One soundbite at a time. Just one soundbite at a time. All right, hey, listen, I got to tell you about attorney Stan McDonald. Stan McDonald, partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee. Stan McDonald is a 30-year veteran in the practice of law in North Alabama. And look, I know this guy personally. I know who he is and what he stands for. And I know he's been in the mix for the things that right-side ruffians like us care about. He's been a conservative warrior for decades, and he's a good lawyer. How about that? So yeah, attorney Stan McDonald, he has represented his clients in literally thousands of real estate transactions over the years. He can stand up for you in any local, state, or federal court. I like to say, if Stan McDonald's on your side, you'll have no greater friend. Likewise, your adversaries would have no greater foe. So here's how you get in touch with him in case you need an attorney in North Alabama. Oh yeah, attorney Stan McDonald, the law firm Wilmer and Lee. He's a America First family man. Here's his phone number, 256-479-3020. That's 256-479-3020. Tell him you heard about it on Rightside Radio. You ready? No representation made. The quality legal service we perform is greater than quality legal service for all the lawyers. Oh my gosh.
It wasn't your 10 yesterday, but it was about a 9-7 right there.
I think we have more fun with the disclaimer than just about anything in the first half hour of the show. Text lines are open. Text it, call it. Same number, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. I got several already. Let's see what we got. You got Hugh from Huntsville says, Real ID. Yeah, it's one of our dippers, our first dipper. Real ID. I have to have this to use my right to move freely across states via plane, but we don't have to have this to exercise our right to vote. That would be a great point, Hugh. I think I'll incorporate that in my commentary here momentarily.
I'll just say I'm happy I'm not having to fly today. Because can you imagine the chaos at the airports today?
We're going to talk about that, but I bet there's some. I mean, we'll see. Dave from Capshaw, Alabama, gave us a thumbs up because YouTube is going. Thank you. Appreciate you being on YouTube with us, Dave. By the way, let me just say this. All of y'all need to check out our online streaming because every once in a while you might want to see what the inside of the studio looks like, or if JP and I are cracking up about something, you can just enjoy laughing with us. But check it out. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on our website, rightsidemedia.org. You can find us on X, on Facebook, all of it. Just look for Rightside Radio, and there we are, live streaming to the world daily, aside from our many radio stations. Bruce from Springville says, concerning Real ID, show us the papers because we have ways of making you talk. See, I saw what he did there, so I put the accent on it real quick.
Very nice.
I feel certain he was texting with an accent.
I think so, yes.
Okay. Allie from Athens says, Counselor, I think my personal favorite is the $1.8 million spent on the psychological effects of losing rock, paper, scissors. Yes. Says the only thing that could be worse is if somebody was able to earn a PhD on this study because it served as their dissertation. You know what, though? Allie, it may have happened. We don't know. All I know is gone are the days when you taught kids just how to win or lose. Now you got to have millions of dollars to study what it felt like to win or lose. I don't know. What does it feel like to breathe? How about that? Navy Phil from Athens says, thank you once again for your words of truth, sir. And as AC/DC saying, stand up and be counted for what you are about to receive. Quoting the prophets of AC/DC. JT from Lacey Springs says, what I appreciate about Doge is the massive departments they've into the abyss that they search. Yeah, I agree. And then John from Huntsville says, Phil, spectacular monologue. Also, did you hear they haven't selected a pope yet because black smoke came out the chimney of the Sistine Chapel and they say they'll try again tomorrow? I think they have to. I think that's the way it works. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll be right back. plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all have talked about this show. Whew. I mean, it goes like from Huntsville back over to Chattanooga, from Tuscaloosa back to Gadsden, from all the way down to the loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the border from there to what we now get to once again call Fort Benning. And yes, big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi thrown in just for good measure. And that's just the radio. That's not including our massive online audience streaming the show daily on YouTube and others. So we love this audience and we appreciate you. I got a text from Brian from Decatur who says, if the conclave is about God speaking to all the cardinals on whom to pick as the next pope, then I find it rather exposing, he says exposing, that they are not in tune with God's will to make a decision on the first try every time, especially being in the high stature and elevation of the Catholic religion that they are. Well, I would disagree with that, Brian, because there are many, many times when God's will requires us to put ourselves into the right posture, the right place, to determine and to discern and to divine. And sometimes there are distractions in the world that we have to weed through. And so I don't fault them at all. In fact, I would rather they be deliberative, debated among themselves, pray, debate some more, pray some more. And then I don't want to see it, be a choice that happens hastily. I'd love to see them take a week and a half or 2 weeks. Just keep hashing it out, fellas. So I really do believe there's scriptural precedent for the woman who stood and knocked at the door of the judge and kept knocking at the door and kept knocking at the door and kept knocking at the door. Sometimes we need to knock at that door for a while and spend time before the Lord and get ourselves in a right posture so that we can hear better. My thoughts. You about to say something?
No, I was just going to say we're about to open up a can of worms.
Well, I ain't going down the road of picking on the Catholics for picking a new leader.
No, I was, talking about Brian, with that text, yeah.
I also think, though, I kind of wish every church took as much time and deliberation to choose their leadership.
I will say it's pretty cool that their tradition of, secluding themselves from the outside world and not leaving that room or not having any sort of outside world influence on who they're going to pick, and with the smoke and everything. I think that is a pretty cool tradition that they've kept. And
I'll tell you what else I like. And we don't know what it's like in there. It might be peaceful. They're talking amongst themselves. It might be Thunderdome for all we know. But
yeah.
But what we do know is when they come out, they say we've rallied around this person, and we feel like God says this is the one. But what I also thought was cool was they when you say they cut themselves off from the outside world, they literally do.
Yeah.
They actually, I saw where security went through and swept the entire building for bugs.
Yep.
And listening devices of any kind. And they don't allow cell phones or other devices in the room. It's old school, back in the day, like just guys in a room and they slide the food under the door, I guess. I don't know, but it's very cool. Bama Grant from Huntsville says you must watch The Conclave on Amazon Prime. No, I don't want to watch that movie. I don't trust those movies. Bama Grant, I don't. And maybe it's great, but I have the feeling that one tries to make it out. What I've seen of the ads, it looks an awful lot like they try to make it out to denigrate Christianity and Catholicism in general. So I ain't going there. In fact, I wasn't going to watch, and I still haven't. You know what I still haven't watched? I still have not watched The Passion of the Christ. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I actually rewatched it for Easter this
Did you really?
Yeah. So, yeah, go ahead with it.
It came out while I was overseas,
Mm-hmm.
and I never got a chance to go back and watch it, but I always felt like I need to watch this one by myself. And it's not often that I sit and just watch a movie by myself, but I keep remembering that periodically that I need to go back, because I was leery, and then I heard amazing things about it.
Oh yeah, I mean the story. The guy who plays Barbarous. There's the scene where he looked at the character who plays Jesus, and the real life Barbarous character actually converted to Christianity after that.
Yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of other stories.
You mean the actor did?
Yeah, the actual
wow.
actor did. He claimed that he looked and saw the real eyes of Jesus whenever he did that. But yeah, I'm very much against trying to make Jesus to be entertainment. Like, I'm very much against like The Chosen and like I mean, it has its purpose, but I've always been wary about like trying to change the Jesus character for your consumption and entertainment. But Mel Gibson genuinely gave his all to make that movie, accurate and not for entertainment, to actually try to portray what actually happened. So I think that is the one where I'm very much in favor of it.
And I've heard, and by the way, I did like The Chosen. Charlene and I saw it, and I couldn't take any offense in it. It actually opened my eyes to a few things I'd never thought of before. But on the I also heard that Jim Caviezel, who played Jesus in The Passion of the Christ, that it was a life-changing experience for him. And wasn't he struck by lightning?
Yeah, he was struck by lightning.
He was struck by lightning during the movie.
Dislocated his shoulder because when they filmed the crucifix part, I mean, he had to be up there for hours to film it.
Wow.
So
Wow.
And I say The Chosen, that's just kind of a arbitrary example, but just in general.
Oh, but I got to tell you this.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought I would watch The Passion of the Christ while I was overseas. And we had, on our fob, occasionally there were little vendors that were allowed to come in from outside, and they would set up and they would sell, Iraqi wares or whatever else. And so they had stuff, and they had this one little guy that would sell basically bootleg DVDs. And they all had covers, but they were bootleg DVDs. And sometimes you could watch them and realize you're seeing somebody in the theater stand up and walk in front of the screen because somebody filmed it on their phone in the theater, right? But I saw The Passion of the Christ sitting on the shelf, and I thought, oh, I'm in an Arabic nation, and there's The Passion of the Christ. So I bought it. And I bought it, and I was walking back to my hooch on the fob, and I looked at the back side of it and realized on the back of it, it said, "A great comedy, you will find this hilarious." So basically, in the Arab world, these bootleggers were taking this and they were trying to portray it as a nothing burger, but they were still selling it.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
I kept that just as a sign that Satan will mock anything. I don't know where it is now, but I kept it for a while. All right, listen, we're going to jump into Dipper number 1. So, okay, Real ID. I got notions on this. You guys text me in, call me in, tell me what you want to say, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. I will tell you that by and large, leadership that I trust is all on board. Doesn't mean I have to like it. You know what I'm saying? There are times when those who have been granted authority in places in my life say things, do things, enact things that I may not like, but I still respect their authority. So, yeah. But I have to look at this and go, okay, first of all, Real ID was actually passed by Congress 20 years ago. Did you know that? 20 years ago. And the implementation of it has been deferred and deferred and deferred for 20 years. So part of what bothers me on this is the reason why we're actually seeing it implemented now is because of illegal immigration. I said on this show a while back that I felt like there were a couple of things that could bring about what I would call the mark of the beast. Just as long as we're talking about Christian stuff, if there's a couple of things out there that could bring about the mark of the beast, one would be an international incident in which you can't tell who the bad guys are, and so good guys have to get marked. There's that. The other one was illegal immigration. Are you supposed to be here? The only way you're going to be allowed to buy or sell or do things is to have the mark. Well, it shouldn't have to be that way. And I don't want it to be that way. And Real ID feels a little creepy to me, to be honest. It just does. And I'm probably poisoning the well for some of you. A lot of you are not even really aware of what it is. I'm going to tell you more about the details here in a minute. But what creeps me out about Real ID is it's not the bad guys that are getting the mark, it's the good guys. Once again, it's the Second Amendment gun right owners that have to buy the gun permit, right? It's not the bad guys. So the bad guys run around the country and do what they want to do. Meanwhile, if a U.S. citizen wants to fly from one place to another in his own country, he has to have a special ID now with a star on it to be allowed to get on the plane. And that just irks the crap out of me, to be honest. My libertarian side comes out on that one. I find myself getting miffed because I've done everything right. I have no criminal record. I have served my country ably in military. I have done things and been to places all with the stated purpose of upholding and defending the Constitution. And I'm the one who's got to get a special ID to fly in my own freaking country. So there's a bit of a rant attached to this. Now, here's the other thing. I'm going to get one because I got to. because I intend to travel freely in my country. And there are some ways around doing things, like my military ID will actually get me on a plane, apparently, and I'm glad to hear it. But here's the other piece that irks the crap out of me. For 20 years, they put it off. For 20 years, it wasn't important. For 20 years, we didn't have to have it. And then the Biden administration came in and opened up the freaking borders, and 11 million people ran across the Rio Grande. And now I have to get a star ID. And that makes me mad. So 11 million people come in here illegally. They live off of they're draining our country of resources. We're having to spend all kinds of money just to get them out. Some of them are criminals, not all of them, I get it, but some of them are absolute criminal aliens and need to be deported just for their own activities once they got here. At the same time, I'm not that. My wife and I, if we want to take a vacation now in our own country that involves getting on an airplane, we have to have a special ID. Why is that okay? And it's not. And they'll tell us, and I know they have, that it's an accepted form of identification that Congress has now duly enacted and said we have to do it. It was passed in the wake of 9/11. Get it? Terrorism. Terrorists came to this country. They did things they shouldn't have done. They passed the law on star ID. Then they thought twice, and they went, oh, crap, we just did that. We don't want to repeal it. That looks like we don't care about safety. But we don't want to enact it because that looks like we're trying to be punitive to Americans until now. And now we got to have it because they opened up the border and let 11 million people rush us. So that being said, take a deep breath, Phil. That being said, I'm going to get it. But here's the problem. Good luck getting it if you don't have it yet. You know why? The other day I told Charlene, I said, I got to get a star ID. What if I need to take this, trip, this business trip? I had to be in D.C. a few weeks ago. It's a good thing I didn't need it then. But what if I need to travel? So I guess, honey, we got to get a star ID. Can you go online and find out which office they're doing that in our county? I think it's a regular driver's license office, but if at one point it was a special office. Oh, no, it's at the driver's license office, but so many people need it, you have to make an appointment and you can't get in for over a month and a half. In Etowah County, Alabama. I'm not talking about New York City. I'm not talking about Los Angeles. I'm not talking about Chicago. I'm talking about Etowah County, Alabama. I have to wait till sometime in mid-June just to get a star ID so I can be allowed to get on an airplane and fly around my own country. The country where I pay taxes. The country who I served in the military. The country where you get the point. All that to say, text lines are kind of quiet. Maybe I've ranted and you're scared to say something, but if you have a different view, tell me. In the meantime, I will tell you this. I may not like it, but I'm going to get one. You know why? Because I've done nothing wrong and they have to give me one. I'm going to show them my birth certificate, my social security card. I'm going to show them my marriage license. I'm going to show them something that means 2 proofs of residency, whatever that is. Gun permit, I don't know. But I'm going to show them all the stuff. Maybe a copy of my power bill, birthmark on my right leg, I don't know. And I'll get a little star put on my ID card. And then I'm going to be able to get on a plane and fly to where I want to go because, I don't know, I've earned it. Let's take a break, JP. We'll take a break. I'll come right back. Give me your feedback, please. 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Real ID. How do you feel? We'll be right back. We are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower. I'm going to go to the phones here momentarily. I'll get a couple of quick text messages. JD from Hartselle says, I got my Star ID a few years ago just to save me hassles when flying. I never even thought about the mark of the beast. Thanks, Phil. Sorry, JD. Kevin from Chattanooga, he says, he was born at the time near Florence, and the doctor never filed the paperwork. He was born at home near Florence. I'm sorry, and the doctor never filed the paperwork. That's one of the things people are running into is all of a sudden they're realizing to get a driver's license with a star on it, you have to have paperwork that some people do have trouble getting. And by and large, people can get it, but there's going to be unique situations like that. Kevin, thanks. Let me go to the phones. John from Athens. Hey, John, how you doing?
Very well, sir. Calling you from the prettiest town in North Alabama.
There you go.
He went through the list of requirements to get the Star ID,
Yep.
and unless things have changed in the last year, I don't think a single one of those things is required to register to vote.
No, you're right. Isn't that amazing? I mean, your constitutional right to vote, just depending on what state you're in, may have a picture ID, and that's about all. But it doesn't say star.
You don't. You have to sign an affidavit on the form that you're not lying and that you're not a U.S. citizen.
Yeah.
I mean that you are a U.S. citizen, but there's no documentation required.
No.
You give them an address where you live, but you're not asked to document that you really live there.
Yeah.
In fact, I have seen registrars kick them out because the address they gave was for a mini storage building or an empty lot. And so my question is, how is it possible that we require more documentation for you to fly on an airplane than it does for you to go vote for the President of the United States?
That's a question that I wish I had the right answer for, but I'm just going to have to join you in having the question. How about that?
So, have a great day, sir.
See you, John. Thank you much. And Athens is a beautiful town, by the way. A couple more text messages. This one's gotten people riled up, I can tell. Brian from Decatur said, I had a passport to get my Star ID a couple years ago. I was told I had to go home and get a birth certificate as well. Since when did anything trump a passport on any form of identification verification? A lot of this feels like more government bureaucracy. Well, it is, Brian, and that's part of the problem is that there's not been what I would call having their act together on this thing for a while. The guidance is being put out now, and I'll go into it here in a minute. But the guidance is being put out now that if you don't have your Star ID, you can actually carry your passport with you to the airport and use that as your alternate form of ID. And yet you're telling me you had to have a passport to be able to get the Star ID itself. It's just, listen, not every office was run by what I would call the sharpest knives in the drawer. And you show up and just hope that they've got their act together and they're not going to make you wait in line and then tell you, I'm sorry, you need one more piece of paper. Anyway, and that, by the way, that's one of the things too. The lovely Charlene, we had trouble finding her Social Security card. She had to order a new Social Security card so she can go get her Star ID. I mean, it's just like, okay, so obviously the government knows who I am. You can give me the official Social Security card, but you don't know me enough for me to get my Star ID. Anyway.
I feel like if you're gonna argue the safety standpoint of people who are flying, I feel like TSA, the amount you have to go through to get on a plane in the first place. Like, I don't know. I feel like there's already enough in place. And if you're already a citizen with a license, I don't get what more a Star ID does. And if I had to go and get it, I'd probably be as outraged as you were. But my mom had me get it when I got my license. So thank you.
Well, you had it for a few years.
Thank you for that. Yeah. And I didn't even know what it was when I got it. So I was like, oh, okay, whatever. Yeah.
Does it have a pretty gold star on it?
It does.
Is it kind of like the Rightside Radio star?
It actually is identical.
There is that. Tammy from Town Creek says the 9/11 hijackers had their passports. I forgot what country they were from. Yeah, Saudi Arabia. Good point. Handy Man from Caddo, Alabama says, you've already taken the mark anyway. It's called Social Security. Oh, no. If that was the case, then every nation would have Social Security.
You know, when I read the beginning of that text, I thought he was going to say the vaccine, but thank you. We're not going down that road.
You just opened that can of worms. Thank you very much, JP. Robert from Ardmore says, the Star ID was not available when I went to the regular place to get my license in Madison County. I actually had to go to a state office in order to get the Star ID. God almighty. Well, let me tell you, before you go down there thinking you're going to get it, make sure you look up in your county where it is. That's a great point. Thank you, Robert. Victor from Huntsville says, Phil, They're working to make the Star ID the standard to register to vote. Therefore, you must prove citizenship to get the Star ID, which then means you're a citizen when you register to vote. Okay. They're not saying that, but okay. Brand spanking new texter. It's Diana. I'm sorry. Diana, tell us where you're from, Diana. Says, I heard that having the Star ID may help Trump keeping illegals from traveling. And that's the point. That's why we're doing it. That's why they're saying we have to do it now, is to keep illegals from floating around the country. They can still get in a car and drive, though, can't they? Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama and Tennessee syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live from the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. I keep seeing myself on the YouTube looking very serious. So I made myself smile a moment ago.
Well, you clearly are upset by the star ID. So I think
look, I'm going to raise my eyebrows and I'm going to smile.
smiled the whole segment.
Okay, good. You fake it till you make it.
I think that's worse, though, than not smiling.
Hey, I got to tell you, though, something that does make me smile is a text I just got from Tammy from Town Creek. Did you see that one?
I did.
Tammy from Town Creek says, by the way, I'm a first-time texter, which I just realized that. Thank you, Tammy. And then she said, I listen every day, though, but the first time contacting you, but you've converted me from an independent, moderate Democrat to a Republican, and I love your show. Tammy, give her some applause. That is huge. I tell you what. I have not had the best morning, and I can go all day on that now. How about that? That's just, listen, welcome to the fold. We're glad to have you. Let me go to the phones real quick. Carol from Athens is on line one. Carol from Athens, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I am good. I'm good. What's on your mind?
So with the Star ID,
Yeah.
isn't this like a security type thing since you have to have it to fly and to get on military bases?
That is what we're told, yes.
Okay, so do you have to go back through a process ever so often to get it renewed, or do you just get it renewed like you do your driver's license?
Great question. To my knowledge, once you've got it, your records are considered to be on file, and when you have to renew your license like you normally would, my understanding is it just automatically renews as a Star ID at that point.
So, I mean, do they track you or something to make sure that you haven't done anything in the meantime, or how does that work?
No. I mean, you know what? I mean, and truth be told, Tammy, you don't have to get it. You just will have more trouble flying somewhere if you don't. The only thing right now that I see this is being applied to is the question of getting on a plane. But I had somebody else text in earlier and say they think they're moving towards the idea of having this to be able to vote, and I could see that. But there's no legislation right now out there that would really require that. So I think the bottom line is it's supposed to be a security measure that was passed in the wake of 9/11, and they're just now getting around to doing it.
But, I mean, if you're not having to go through some other process to have a clearance or whatever, you have to be reevaluated every so often.
Yeah, I had a clearance, I had a TS for years, and you had your 5-year periodic reevals, they call it, and they want to make sure that you weren't, committing crimes or, and having foreign contacts you shouldn't have and all that kind of stuff. But nope, that's where we are right now. It's a driver's license with a gold star on it, and it means that you're approved as a U.S. citizen without having to be screened extra to get on a plane. So, hey, Carol, thanks for the call. All right, take care. So let me cover a couple things, and I got a ton of apparently we have lit y'all up. But here's a couple things to think about. Real ID, it is here, right? Fox News has an article on this that came out this morning. Hold it in my calloused former paratrooper hands. Points out this was passed during the George W. Bush administration era of May 11th, 2005. So 4 years after 9/11, 3.5 actually, after 9/11. He signed it into law after it was passed by Congress. So it's congressionally mandated. It is national legislation. It is federal. Therefore, it applies across all 50 states and territories. And it sets standards for issuing identification cards like driver's licenses. And here's what you have to do. You have to basically prove that you have, where'd it go? You have to prove that you have a state issued driver's license. There it is. I'm sorry. I'm looking at my notes. Obtain a real ID. You have to have a state DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles documentation with your full name, date of birth, social security number, 2 proofs of residency, and lawful status. And I can tell you right now, you're going to want to take your social security number in your actual card. They won't take it on a copy or something like that. So if you don't have a social security card, you got to order it. But yeah, now, can you get on a plane with something else? Yes. Can you get on a military base with something else? Yes. Military base will still take a military ID card to include a dependent's card and a retiree's card, is my understanding. Better be, because I got my military retiree's ID right now. You can have a state-issued enhanced driver's license, which I think is what we're talking about. You can have a U.S. passport to get on a plane. You can have a DHS, Department of Homeland Security, trusted traveler card. I've never heard of that. What is a trusted traveler?
I have no idea.
Why are some trusted and some are not? Does that mean since I don't have one, I'm not a trusted traveler?
I guess.
What in God's name is happening in my country? How about a U.S. Department of Defense ID? I already said that. Permanent resident card, a border crossing card. A border crossing card? An acceptable photo ID from a recognized tribal nation or Indian tribe. Okay. A foreign government passport. Okay. Canadian provincial driver's license or Indian or Northern Affairs Canada card. Really? A transportation worker identification credential, meaning I guess you work for the airline so you can get on and off the plane. Or a U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services Employment Authorization card, or a Merchant Mariner's credential. Merchant Mariners.
There's too many cards.
Or a Veterans Health Identification card. So I can show them my VA card, I can show them my military ID, I can get my star ID, I can take my passport. Why are we doing this? If I can show them any card in the world except my driver's license, then what in God's name are we doing?
I feel like a driver's license should trump all of those.
A driver's license got relegated to obscurity.
Yeah. And how is a driver's license not a trusted traveler card? Isn't that?
I don't know.
Isn't that essentially what it is? Like
I am so perplexed by this.
Kerfuffle.
Yes,
whatever.
all of it. I can't even say the word right now. Who's on the line? Is that Kareem? Kareem from Huntsville, Star ID. What you got, buddy? How you doing?
Hey, Phil. I was thinking on that Star ID things because I was trying to get my birth certificate for like 4 years. I was trying to tell everybody it was a real process to get your birth certificate.
Yeah, it is.
Because in order to get it, you got to have your birth certificate. So I didn't even have mine. And then when I finally got it, they told me I had two names, two letters on there that was wrong, and it took me 4 years to get it.
Oh my gosh!
So it when now, thank God I got it now, but and that's a whole different story. But when you was talking about earlier in the year when they was talking about having proof that you're an American citizen in order to vote,
yeah,
I would have needed my birth certificate, right?
I guess, yeah.
Or I would have lost my vote.
It's a mess.
So imagine all the people that would have lost their vote because they couldn't get their birth certificate.
Yeah, but
the ones who's going through it right now, they can't even get the Star ID.
Yeah, I know. The whole thing's a mess. I mean, part of it is the bureaucracy. If we're going to say you got to have these things, and you got to make these things available, right? Like you with the 4 years. I mean, that's ridiculous. I remember my dad.
It's ridiculous.
My dad was on.
The only way I got it is that I just happened to be on the elevator one day in the courthouse when I was going to register a deed with the city.
Yeah.
And I just happened to be on there, and I just mentioned it to a guy that was on the elevator with me, and he turned out to be the circuit court judge.
Oh, no kidding.
He gave me a name change.
No
I swear
kidding.
to God.
Well, you know what? That was a good elevator ride. Listen.
He gave me a name change, right? I was about 10 minutes later, he gave me a name change to my real name.
Well, wait a minute. Now I don't believe you. I don't think we're even talking to the real Kareem. I think you're a fake. I don't know who's talking about. But bureaucracy gets in the way, though, brother. I mean, my father, when he was on his deathbed, he was a veteran, and he was dying from Agent Orange exposure. And I asked him, I said, Dad, did you get all your VA benefits taken care of before you passed? Because it would mean a lot to my stepmoms for survivor benefits. And he said, it's still on appeal. I said, how long has it been on appeal? 3 years. 3 years. Luckily, it came through literally right before he died. But, 3 years to process a piece of paper. But
that's horrible.
It's a mess.
I'm safe again. God looks out for me. God looks out for me all the time. He always drops it right in my lap. He sets me out every time. Anytime he sets me out every time. That's all.
Stay in the fight, bro. We'll see you.
All right.
All right. Take care.
All right. Have a nice one, fellas.
You too, buddy. Okay. I got a ton of text. I got a couple of things here. I got to cover a few pieces of this. I did not expect this topic to be near as viral as it is.
Got a lot of angry people about it.
But Kareem makes a great point. If like Charlene had to order a Social Security card, it took weeks for it to get here. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, according to Fox News, has announced on Tuesday, that's today, that Americans who don't have their real IDs will still be allowed to fly, but they could face extra screening and delays. So here's my advice to you people, based on what I'm hearing, is yes, there are other documents you can use to get on a plane. But if you don't have the Star ID, understand that the already long delays you may have going through TSA could be longer because they're going to have an additional screening line. So basically, you just got put in the bad person line, and the bad people take longer. Do they really? You know what may find out? Everybody's got a Star ID, and your line is now shorter. Who knows? But what I'm suggesting is this. If you're planning to get to the airport an hour before your flight, I'd get there an hour and a half before your flight. Just don't take any chances. I'll get to the phones one moment. I will say this. U.S. Senator Tommy Tuberville, Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville said, it's important that every state does the same thing. We can't have some states doing one thing, some states doing the other. This is the United States of America. Last time I looked, he said, we're going to do it. Let's all do it the same. Let's do it the right way. Let's take care of business and go from there. So what he's basically saying is this avoids a patchwork quilt of what is considered to be a positive state ID. Okay. The Trump administration did confirm that, yes, the date will stay. That we know that it's today. Eric Schmidt, senator from Missouri, Republican, he said he's criticizing it. He says the real ID has really not been talked about well. It's been out there for a bit, but there hasn't been enough information. And now we're starting to get questions from our constituents. Well, I guess so. But guess what? Congress, you passed it. So why are you bucking the system now? Y'all are the ones that passed it. Representative Dale Strong from Alabama. He said, just go get the star on your driver's license. It'll help you down the road. That's his advice. Okay. Let me go to the phones quick before the break. Oh, man, I got about 45 seconds. So Dana from North Alabama, how you doing?
Hey, Phil.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I was just going to let y'all know, I just went and got my license renewed a couple of weeks ago. I'm 53. I've never been on a plane, and I don't ever plan on flying.
Okay.
But the two things to remember is if you do not have any reason to go to a military base or anything, or if you don't plan to fly, it is not mandatory to get the STAR.
That's right.
The second thing is if you do go to get it, you cannot go to your regular courthouse license renewal place. You have to go back to the DMV to get the Star ID the first time. You have to go back through your DMV. Like, we have a DMV in Athens, but it's really slow. So, like, if you go to Muscle Shoals or Decatur to the state trooper's office, wherever you can take your driver's test, you have to go there to get the first time to get your Star ID. And then once you have it on your license, then you can just continue to go to the courthouse and get it renewed every 4 years like a regular license.
Yeah, and I think you listen. That's a great point, and I actually said a little while ago, whatever you do before you head down there thinking you got your act together, look it up online and confirm where it is you have to go. Otherwise, you may wind up being in the wrong place, and there you are.
Exactly, because a lot of county courthouses don't have the DMV office in their facility.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So we do, but ours is always backed up. It would take, 8 hours to go through the little DMV office up here, where you could go to Decatur or somewhere and get in and out in an hour or less. So,
all right, Dane, I got to go. Thanks for the call. Appreciate you.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
You too. Take care. All right, take me to a break, brother. I ran long, but we'll come right back and probably put a wrap on this. But, then again, I got like 15 texts to get through, so maybe we won't. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Saving the world one soundbite at a time. Listen. This apparently this dipper's gone viral, and I'm enjoying it. But let me just say, the lovely Charlene just texted in, and she says some DMVs have issued illegals driver's license across the nation. That's right, yeah, and that diluted the driver's license. So what she's saying, that she makes a great point. I get it, and that she's right. She grounds me quite often, but what she's saying is that it's not always just, it's because illegals have been getting driver's licenses in other states that it also changes the dynamic of what the driver's license even means. And that's a great point. Had not thought of this. All right, I got a caller real quick, or do I not? No, I don't. Okay.
But somebody called in to let me know about the trusted travelers.
Trusted travelers. What is that?
So apparently it's something that you can get approved for, and I guess you don't have to go through the security like other people do, like taking off your shoes in the line because you've been previously vetted.
Oh, wait a minute. So if I get a special pass so I can keep my shoes on, then I don't have to get the star ID.
Yeah, you don't have to get like groped by TSA, I guess, going through the line. I don't know, because you're a trusted traveler.
I don't have to stand there naked and exposed in the X-ray machine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, stand with your hands over your head. And now there's a picture of me in all my glory. I'm thinking. So what you're telling me is if I take the time to get a trusted traveler ID that prevents me from being groped or taking my shoes off, that I am now considered not a terrorist.
I guess so, because you've been deemed trusted.
Stop it. Just make it stop. Tom with all the kids in Huntsville. Tom with all the kids says, I fly on orders and with a CAC. That's a CAC card, military ID. Yep, I get it. Yeah. Mike from Athens says, trusted traveler lets you skip the long lines at the airport. No more standing in line for hours. Okay. John from Brownsboro says, by the way, do you have to be a U.S. citizen to get a trusted traveler?
I would hope so.
Can an illegal alien get a trusted traveler ID?
I would hope not.
But
who knows?
So does Tren de Aragua have to take their shoes off when they go through the TSA line?
You got MS-13 on your knuckles, but you seem like a trusted traveler.
Come on through.
Go on through.
Don't take your shoes off, sir.
Yeah.
Step right up. First class?
Oh, you're an American citizen? Oh, no. You got to get a star.
Back of the line, you.
Yeah, you got to get a star.
Frick.
I guess he was trusted to travel over the border in the first place.
By the way, can I have another moment of personal privilege?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Mr. President, I'd like a moment of personal privilege.
Permission granted.
Thank you. How many times have you been to the airport of late and you get there, you're not even sure which line you're supposed to go in because they have the line you can pay money to be in to go faster. You have the line that's, I don't know, expedited, and you have the other line for all the common folk, which I apparently fall into the common folk category. I stood in a line at the airport when I was flying to D.C. It took me 20 minutes to get all the way up for him to tell me I was in the wrong line, and I had to go back and stand in line again. And I'm just going to be honest with you, kind of ticked me off.
Why are there so many lines in the first place?
Why are there so many lines? And you walk up and you look at them and go, I don't know. Anyway.
I haven't been to the airport in like a year and a half, and I hate flying, and I feel like this is going to make it even worse and more complicated.
It may not. Who knows? Maybe it'll make it easier. I don't know. Now I want to be a trusted traveler. I want to keep my shoes on.
Yeah.
Stop touching me, you TSA people. Victor from Huntsville says, Charlene's point ties back to what I texted earlier. Conservatives are working towards ensuring only U.S. citizens are registered to vote. This is why the left is screaming over this, including needing a birth certificate or a U.S. passport. Yeah, they still got to pass legislation, which they haven't. And I don't know if they can. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about, this show goes from Huntsville back over to Chattanooga, from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden, all the way down to that lovely little village on the plains we like to call Auburn, straight across the border from there to what we get to call, once again, Fort Benning, and big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi, all thrown in just for good measure. And that's just the radio. And then we got our huge online audience. Thank you all for streaming us online, no matter where you are in the big wide world. You can go to the World Wide Web, go to Rightside Radio or RightSideMedia.org, and there we are. And by the way, I just got some information there from Tammy from Town Creek. If you would take all that down, please, JP. Tammy, we got you covered. I tell you what, I got a ton of text messages, and I gotta jump back in them because I am going to honor the fact that y'all are engaging this show. John T. from Alabama says, forget the star ID, just get chipped. Oh, see, stop. See, that's the mark of the beast right there, the chip. It's like having a cat card under your skin. Brian from Decatur says, the fact that they have postponed this for over 20 years tells me the futility of the entire process for the star ID. Makes you wonder, doesn't it, bro? Brand spanking new in the text lines, and we're glad to have you, is Ann from Morgan County. Ann, thank you for texting. She said, I currently do not have Real ID. The name of my driver's license does not match the name of my Social Security card. Solution is to get a passport, apparently. Meanwhile, my non-Real ID license was sufficient to give my kid Real ID when kid got permits because the name on the driver's license matched my kid's birth certificate. Make it make sense. I can't, Ann. I cannot. But I'm glad you're texting. Thank you for joining the Right Side Ruffian text lines. Bobby from Huntsville says, I think Tammy needs a free T-shirt. Can you give me some applause for Bobby from Huntsville, who gave me that idea, and we are sending Tammy from Town Creek a free Right Side Ruffian T-shirt. So absolutely. Thank you, Bobby. You are indeed a gentleman and a scholar. Thomas from Athens says, Brother Phil, if you're interested, there's a website called conclave.relevantradio.com where one can learn truth about the conclave. Well, thank you. And sign up for the Smoke Watch. That feels like something else. I don't know. And by the way, he said Right Side Radio could surely be called Relevant Radio as well. Thank you. Thank you very much. Although we don't select popes, but nonetheless, big doings. What?
I was just trying to think of something we would have smoke for, like from a chimney here.
Smoking cigars like Rush Limbaugh did in the studio?
Yeah.
Fox News, Dave from Capshaw says, Fox News, the Real ID deadline coincides with efforts from the Trump administration to crack down on non-citizen voting. Okay, I mean, I hear y'all are saying that, but that also means that they have to pass legislation because I think the Trump thing is locked up in court. Executive order is probably not going to have the force of law. Glenda from Decatur says, we got our star IDs in Florida years ago. We moved to Alabama. We assumed they would honor the vetting system that Florida required, give us our Alabama star ID. No. Oh, wow. Are you kidding? Then we moved to Georgia, and again, that state's driver's license bureau made us bring all the documents in again. We moved back to Alabama, and you guessed it, even though we were in the system with the star, we again had to provide all documents. Does anyone know this will be the requirement forevermore? Glenda, my gosh, your testimony alone ought to shut this thing down. Just saying. I'm sorry for it. And I'm assuming you might have moved because of the military is what it sounds like. But nonetheless, whatever purpose had you moving around, we're glad you're in Alabama. Jack from Huntsville says, I have a January birthday, had to renew my license the year the star ID came out. It was a pain in the butt with all the documentation requirements. Apparently the process has not smoothed out. Rap from Athens said, did you see the interview with the new singer from Athens on the Theo Von Show? What has that got to do with anything I'm talking about? What? Rap? Stay with us, brother. Focus. JT from Madison says, we need star ID because so many blue states gave driver's license to illegal. There you go. You and the lovely Charlene agree. Kenan from Huntsville, y'all are some texting machines, y'all. Kenan from Huntsville says, violating our rights never solves the problem. 9/11 would not have been possible but for the violations of the Second and Fourth Amendment rights of passengers and airline crews. Okay. Let me just point out something Kenan said. I have said this on the show many times. When legislators are passing laws, they should always first err on the side of liberty. Make sense? When legislators are passing laws, they should always first err on the side of liberty, meaning that should be the measuring stick. You may have a great idea. This will be great. I like this. How's that measure up to the Constitution? Oh, well, I got a great idea. I'm going to make it safer on the streets. We're going to curtail gun violence by, I don't know, having a list of who buys guns. Err on the side of liberty. And then now we're looking at this. Travel. You know, the right to freedom of passage within one's own nation is supposed to be a sovereign right. Feels like it's being infringed upon. Just saying. JT Lacey Springs says, you got an appointment in June? Mine's in late August. My curiosity is after Star ID, what will be next? Mandatory requirements for tattoos and implants? There you go. Mike from Florence, I got mine 2 or 3 years ago at the State Trooper's office in Colbert County. I let my CDL go for a regular driver's license. Wow. TL from Huntsville said, I'm concerned about the national ID with a star on my driver's license, but I'm even more concerned about the next step potential of digitizing the national ID with biometrics and tracking like the Chinese style of tyrannical control. TL, I share that concern because I think that's the natural progression. Well, you know, not everybody went and got a star ID. Well, if you won't get the star ID, we're not going to let you have, I don't know, a credit card. Oh, by the way, we're doing away with cash. Now all money is digital. Now you can't have money, which means you can't buy or sell. Is this sounding biblical to you? It is to me. Rhett from Danville says, they ask for your prescription meds list. If you tell them you take anything, then they want a doctor to sign off on a document saying you're okay to drive. Don't make the mistake of saying you're diabetic or having a high BP meds. Oh, really? Okay. Have I got a caller on the line? I'll get to it one momento. Barbara, I swear I'm going to catch up on these. Barbara from Trinity. Is the whole show text messages? Is that okay? Do you like that? I think it's okay, isn't it?
I like it when the show runs itself.
You know, when the audience is engaged like this, I want to honor that. Barbara from Trinity, Alabama says, I don't like the Real ID card either. I don't plan to get one because I have a current U.S. passport, which is good for years, and it'll get me on a plane when I need to travel. Bam. Bam. Barbara. Bert from Owens Crossroads says, Star ID is kind of like going through TSA checkpoints. It's an exercise in conditioning us citizens to be more submissive. Oh, shoot. Last one, I'll go to the phones. David at Buc-ee's. Do I have to have a Star ID to get gas at Buc-ee's? If you tell me I have to have a Star ID to get barbecue at Buc-ee's, I'm in.
You got to have a Buc-ee's star or a Buc-ee's logo.
A Buc-ee's, I have to have a smiling beaver on my card.
To get beaver nuggets.
Phil, he says, at David at Buc-ee's, a 20-year delay in enforcing Star ID just gave procrastinators more time to procrastinate. Further delays will only give procrastinators more time to procrastinate. David, what's your point? Take a quick call. Lloyd from Huntsville. Hey, Lloyd, how you doing? Lloyd, you there?
This is Owen.
Oh, I'm sorry. It said it on the board wrong. I apologize. Owen, how are you?
I'm fine, I guess. Falling apart one piece at a time.
Well, shoot. Well, how can I help you today?
All right. You said something called Trusted Traveler. It's actually a known traveler.
Okay.
The purpose behind it is to expedite you through immigration and customs when you travel. It can go to foreign nationals and to U.S. citizens. I am a known traveler. It cost me a little over $100 the first time and another $150 the second time. Had to go to Nashville the first time with my passport, my wife and I, with our passports and all this other documentation, answered a lot of questions, and it was by appointment only. I don't know whether they're doing it in Huntsville now, but back then you had to go to Nashville. The purpose behind it was to make it easier for U.S. citizens and other people that traveled regularly from other countries to the United States to expedite their way through immigration and customs.
Okay. So
it also, if you know what TSA pre is, being a known traveler, you also have TSA pre to go through that line.
Right. And all of that is better, apparently, than having a Star ID.
Well, if you travel overseas, it certainly is.
Okay. All right.
When you both coming and going.
Okay.
Also, I have a question.
Yeah.
You did retire, I take it.
Military?
Yeah.
Yeah, military ID. I've got one.
So you've got one, so you don't need a little star on your driver's license.
Yeah, I know I can get by. I realize that, and I appreciate that. I said that earlier too, but
I missed that part of the show.
no, that's okay. I'll wind up getting the star ID just because I'm going to go ahead and do it. As much as I'm griping, I'm going to wind up doing it. But Lloyd,
Well,
hey,
next time you've got it.
Owen, thanks so
Yeah.
much for the call. We appreciate you, man.
All right. Okay, you take care. Out.
All right, take care. Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to wrap this. Oh, I got another one. Francisco from Huntsville says, if it weren't for illegal immigration and terrorist cells within those illegals, we wouldn't be at this point. If you don't think that any of those people that protest across the USA aren't a part of something larger, people are sadly mistaken, he says. All right, listen, stop. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I poked y'all so hard. Here's the bottom line. We're going to get through it. We're going to get through it. Even if we have a little star on our ID, we're going to get through it. But in the meantime, make sure you've got all your papers. If you don't have them yet, go ahead and get them, because the last thing you want is implementation to become more onerous. So if you don't have a piece of paper like a birth certificate, like Kareem was talking about, or like a Social Security card, like my lovely Charlene, then go ahead and get it together. It's going to help you to have it anyway. Have that stuff with you. If you go get the star ID, great. If not, then understand this. You may take longer at the airport, but if you have other forms of ID, trusted traveler, military ID, a passport, you can still get on a plane, but you may take longer to go through the processing. Ask me why. I don't know why. Why are there two lines? I don't know. Just same line, different IDs. But anyway, the end result is let's do what we got to do, and we'll get through it. All right, we're taking a break. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower. So many things going on right now. By the way, the legislature is almost out of session in Alabama. Tennessee is already finished. The state is about to be safer. There are a few things they got done that I find very interesting and very cool. You may recall one of the things that I spent a good bit of time on this show on just a week or so ago was the fact that there are a series of products being sold in like convenience stores and things all over the state of Alabama, and they're made from hemp. Okay, well, what happened was first of all, the legislature passed the law banning it, not restricting it, but the one banning it. Why? You may look at it and go, well, Phil, I mean, it can't be sold if it's illegal. Okay, listen, here's the deal. We have laws that prevent products that have X amount of THC in them. But the federal government, during the Biden administration, passed something that basically makes hemp growing, which is just a part of the cannabis family, but it's not typically as problematic as pure marijuana. Hemp has a much lower, like non-grade THC in it, but THC is in it. So this hemp has been made available because people make ropes out of it. There's all kinds of other industrial uses for it. It's a very fibrous plant. And so the hemp plant can be grown legally now. What they found, though, is that people will take it and they'll basically condense it. It's almost like making orange juice concentrate. And they're making these hemp-based products. Hemp, there's like a loophole. You can sell hemp-based products. It's okay. Except that police in like 9 different times throughout the state of Alabama have bought things over the counter and then sent them to have them tested, only to find out that the compression or the condensing of the hemp product into the drink or the gummy or to the candy is exponentially increased the THC value so that it is over the legal limit. It's like you're buying pot at a convenience store. It's nuts. Legislature has passed a ban on it. So there's that. What?
I was just going to add, I know we had this talk,
Yeah.
however many shows ago we did this, but the whole belief that it's safe because it's not actual, marijuana. I'm sorry. I've seen it ruin a couple of my friends several times on my own eyes.
Yeah.
So I don't buy it. And unfortunately, I think it's something where legislators in Montgomery aren't fully educated on it, or they just think surface value. Oh, well, it's hemp. It's safe, and it's not. And if we're gonna be a state that has no legal marijuana, then across the board it needs to be illegal, in my opinion. Don't have like, oh, well, this is allowed, this is not allowed, this is. Well, the bottom line is you got marijuana being made in a lab, and it's completely unsafe. So this is a good sign, but at the same time, I just ban it altogether, in my opinion. I don't know.
Well, and it appears they have largely done that, although I'm seeing there was one carve-out, and of course it was Democrat Senate Minority Leader Bobby Singleton who managed to get an amendment passed, which he had to have Republican help to do that. Anyway, I find that interesting, and since we talked about it on the show in great detail, and it was the one, too, where actually Kareem called in and gave us a pretty heartfelt discussion about, what's happened in his family with some of this, that the THC that we're seeing today is far and away more condensed and volatile than the THC-infused things that were of, your grandfather's time in the 60s or whatever. All right, all that to say, that just passed, and it goes to Governor Ivey's desk. Here's another thing that I think you might find interesting. Some of y'all are going to look at me and go, why do I care about the Birmingham Waterworks Board? Oh, you should care. You should care. Because Birmingham Waterworks Board actually services like most of central Alabama. It's one waterworks board that serves most of central Alabama, all the way over to St. Clair County and Blount County and all of it. And it is one of the most corrupt, rife with corruption organizations in the state. It is a jacked up mess on a regular basis. There have been people that have gone to jail. There have been investigations. There have been any number of things that were behind the scenes that got exposed, and yet it still keeps on being a problem. And so the legislature just finally passed a bill that would revise the structure of the Birmingham Waterworks Board in an effort to get away from the cronyism that has put the good old boy handshake, give me a little something, something on the side type stuff in place. And apparently that bill is right now sitting unsigned on the governor's desk. and everybody's wondering why. So the bill is lingering on the governor's desk. There's a thing called a pocket veto. Let me give you a little background on this real quick before we go to the break. There's a pocket veto. What that basically means is the governor just declines to sign a bill, which under Alabama law means it effectively is vetoed because she kind of put it in her pocket and walked away. That's what it means. That's the nickname for it. But a pocket veto, is that what's about to happen? Well, she's had the bill since yesterday, which is not a long time. But according to an agenda of things going on right now, the Birmingham Waterworks Board is calling for an emergency meeting. To do what? I don't know. I guess they're freaking out because they realize the jig's up. Or is it? Birmingham filed suit. Birmingham, not the Birmingham Waterworks Board, but the Birmingham Mayor's Office has filed suit against the governor for daring to pass the Birmingham Waterworks Board. It's just, the whole thing is maddening. It's the most inbred thing I've ever seen, and you can't tell me there's not a problem. And I'm going to tell you right now, in the legislature, whenever we dealt with something that had Jefferson County attached to it, we all went, oh, God, because it was going to be like this. It was always drama. It was always rigmarole. And right now, the question is, why is the governor sitting on this bill to reform one of the most corrupt organizations in our state? And I don't know the answer to that yet.
God forbid Woodfin make his city safer. Oh, he's going to sue the governor over this, though.
Yeah, that's right.
This
hey,
is what
Woodfin,
gets him up.
How about that crime rate you got going on there, dude? How about the urban decay? How about the doom loop that some are concerned that downtown Birmingham is in? But you're going to sue over the Birmingham Waterworks Board. All right, we're taking a break. We're coming right back. You know the deal. Coming into third hour on a hump day, that means we've got time for the Grand Council with Jeff Poore, Dale Jackson, and little old me. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama and Tennessee syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 3 on a hump day. And you know what that means? We not only hear the camel at the beginning of the show, but we go to a thing we call the Grand Council at the beginning of hour number 3 with two of my brethren in talk radio, Jeff Poor and Dale Jackson. So let me remind you first, before I call the roll, that the Grand Council brought to you every week by DeKalb MD. That's DeKalb MD, Healthcare Simplified, and I'll tell you more about them in a few minutes. All right, let me just call the roll from FM Talk 1065 down yonder in Mobile, host of the Jeff Poor Show, editor-in-chief of 1819 News, also does work with Breitbart, Lanyap, and a bunch of other stuff. Jeff Poor, are you there?
I'm present.
You are indeed, and you sound sad, and I'm feeling bad for you already. All right, let me turn northward.
Consider my environment where I'm standing right now. You would be sad too.
Oh, well then I already know what's happening. Okay, it's laughing from 770 AM 92.5 FM WVNN out of Huntsville, host of the Dale Jackson Show, works with Yellowhammer News too, and also does stuff like on TV and all kinds of places. Dale Jackson, are you still there?
Oh,
you're
I'm sitting
indeed
at my desk in my house.
And you're happier than Jeff is right now. I pronounce a quorum. Hit it, man.
Assemble the Grand Council.
Voila. Voila. All right, I'm going Dale Jackson first. Be happy. What do you got?
Okay, this might upset Jeff a little bit as part of a conversation, but I just wanted to bring this to a broader audience at any opportunity I get. The Pulitzer Prize being given to Esquire for their coverage of the coverage of 1819 News, basically scolding them and telling them, how dare you cover this story? I mean, who cares about this sex scandal involving a mayor and a Baptist preacher? We would never cover such a story. And all the folks in Alabama media go, yeah, we'd never cover that story. Roy Moore, we thought he was gay. John Merrill, every story about him. Oh, yeah, no, we would never do those things. And they're taking this high road that they do not deserve. And this story should have been covered by everyone the same way 1819 did. And yet they're giving away prizes. I liken it to the Hunter Biden laptop story where everyone knew what was going on and everyone pretended it wasn't a big deal. They're lying. They're frauds. My question is, what's up with that?
I'll tell you what's up with that is they live in an echo chamber, and they do. And so I will affirm my friend Jeff Poor, that was a freaking good story. It was a real story. It was actual news. It was news nobody else would report, and they did. And it had a tragic outcome that is not related to 1819. It's related to the prurient lifestyle and lies that the guy was living. And it's sad, but there it is. And then I'll tell you what else, too. When you look at some of the things that got awards, I mean, like when you see the nomination for best edited interview, and it's the one with Kamala Harris. I mean, you look at this is a joke. These awards they give, it's almost like, some kind of a inside the bubble game. There's no real prize for something that was actually meaningfully good. Well, Jeff, it's your own thing. You're being called out here. What do you think about all that?
Well, two things. Number one, and I'm an expert on this subject matter, I guess at this point, the Esquire story did not offer anything new. It was just a regurgitation of a lot of the details. There were a few updates, but nothing like spectacular. And I'm just stunned that this is the bar. This is the what constitutes award-winning journalism according to the Pulitzer Committee. I think we know what's going on here. But that being said, I said this on Dale's show this morning. I just want to illustrate one more time, reiterate this point. We struggled with this story. It was not an easy story. It wasn't like, oh, this is a slam dunk no-brainer. But it became this. The criteria was, does it impact his job as mayor? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. There's no way to really know. You put that aside. Does it impact his job as the pastor of a First Baptist church? And I think definitely yes. That tilted the scale when that tilted the scale, it's just like, we got to do it. And if we don't do it, what happens? Like how further, this is of the public interest. It has to be done. And that's the reason we went in that direction. Now, I'll say this, one more piece of this was when we did the first story, more people started coming to us with more and more and more.
Yeah.
And there was a whole dossier here. But when he took his life tragically, we just sort of backed off. There was no, it's over. But this story is far from being completed. I think, and maybe it's just best to let it lie where it is.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you look back on some of this and think, you lived the lie. Remember when Libs of TikTok got banned from Twitter, from old Twitter? Libs of TikTok did nothing except show you what they were actually saying about themselves. That's all they did. And the reality is, you guys didn't report something that wasn't true. You reported something he just didn't want people to know was true. And I look back on the news about Governor Robert Bentley. Was it real? Apparently it was. And was it something that was news and could impact his office? Well, apparently it did. And it caused him to have to step down from office, but it was still news. And it was tough.
Right.
But yeah, I see it. And listen, brother, that Pulitzer Prize they got it ranks right up there with Barack Obama getting the Nobel Prize 6 weeks into his presidency. It just makes no sense.
No, and one more thing on that,
yeah.
Senator. When they won that Pulitzer Prize, the only reason they won it because it was that they waited 6 months after Bubba Copeland died to publish their story. Everyone else, all these other outlets, did it in 2023. They wouldn't have been eligible for the 24 Pulitzer, and somehow this guy at Esquire, he won that.
Yeah, I don't get it, but I share
get
both
it.
your confusions. All right, what?
They scolded 1819 News, formerly owned by the Alabama Policy Institute, a conservative leading news site, so therefore they're heroes. That's what that's all about.
Right.
It's a scolding piece. That's all it is.
That's a great point.
Yeah, that's all it is.
That's all it is.
And it was
You're
just
right.
a chance to beat up on a conservative media outlet that's eating their lunch on a daily basis on what's going on in this state.
And the bottom line is, you probably got more followers because of it. But there's that.
I guess, wasn't really cheering for that outcome, but I just, it's folly to say that this isn't news, that we should have ignored it.
I saw the other day that Pete Hegseth has had absolutely zero positive commentary on any of the mainstream media outlets, which everybody agrees means he's doing a good job. So there's that. All right, tell you what, let me go second question before we run out of time. All right, so I saw yesterday Senator Tommy Tuberville was actually talking about the push from the federal side for an overtime tax exemption. Now, Jeff, you're in Montgomery. If something's changed, correct me, but my understanding is the Alabama Republicans in the State House are going to let a tax exemption on overtime pay die because they sunsetted it, and they did not pass it again this legislative session. But on the federal side, they're actually pushing for it. So what the heck? Give me some commentary on that. Jeff, you first.
I did get confronted by Dell's guest in the Alabama Senate tomorrow about what we said on the show about this morning. But I would just say this. They don't think there's going to be any repercussions. They don't believe that there's going to be any fallout from this. It is dead. It's not coming to session. I just think when people, not everybody's going to have their withholdings change based on them changing the law, okay? And there's going to be people who are going to owe hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in state income taxes on overtime because somebody didn't get the memo.
Yeah. And
then you're going to see a real political backlash here. They may want to deny this, but this is the reality. They're going up $300 million on taxpayers this session. They could cut the grocery tax that they were statutorily obligated to already. But they are really, I think, miscalculating this one, that the public will just give them a free pass on it.
And I think some of them who are safe in their zones, who are entrenched in their incumbencies, will be fine. But I guarantee you, some will draw primary challenges, who at the very least will make this an issue. Whether it gets some people out of office, I guarantee you it's going to be a primary issue for some of them. You just wait and see. Dale, you thoughts?
Let me tell you this real quick, Senator, about that. Real quick, they expect the members who really were kind of forced to go along with this. They expect the members to tell their constituents that this is actually better for them. And if they don't do that, they're not doing their job right.
Wow.
That's what they tell their members who push back a little on it.
That's just messed up. Dale, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that this was a no-brainer to just to reaffirm, but for some reason they just didn't want to do it. I never understood. I have not understood this bill not getting done. I don't know if there will be a penalty for it. I'm not so sure there will. I think there's a long time between now and any penalty handing out. But this just was a no-brainer. I don't understand why they didn't do it.
It's laziness and basically a sense of entitlement is my opinion. Real quick, Jeff, we got about a minute and a half. So you got a quick question?
Hey, right now they are deliberating in the House the historic horse racing statute to add it to Greene County, and it looks like it might pass, and you might have historic horse racing in Greene County. If this passes, who will be first between Dale Jackson and Phil Williams to book their trip to Utah for this historic occasion?
I'm going to go ahead and guess that would wind up being Dale Jackson. Just saying.
No, it would not be. I would never bet on something so stupid. These people have no respect for their constituents, and it is just an absolute abomination that anybody would get behind this stupid slot machine with dumber steps.
It's just, you look at it and go, and nothing better to do but this. And they're going to create, by the way, they're going to create the patchwork quilt of other counties and go, well, we want to do one of them. And next thing you know, it's going to be a little patchwork quilt of pop-ups of things that are otherwise illegal under state constitution because they got carve-outs. All right, guys, we got to leave it there. Go ahead real quick.
Let me just say this. They brought the bill up out of order. It was way down the calendar. Bobby Singleton
really?
Upstairs in the Senate is filibustering, and because he's not letting their House bills get through, they can't do Senate bills downstairs. They brought the bill up out of order, so they did like a special thing.
That is such a mess
for this stupid bill.
At some point, the super minority needs to be told that they are a super minority. And that's just, anyway, we got to take a break, fellas. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio, round 2 with the Grand Council, Jeff Poor, Dale Jackson, and little old me. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower. All right, we're back to round two, Grand Council. First question, round two, Dale Jackson, what you got?
We are now watching the second round of stories from our friends in the media about the Mazda Toyota plant here in Huntsville shifting where the vehicles go because of tariffs. They're going to the American market as opposed to the Canadian market. The people working on the line at the Mazda Toyota plant are not impacted at all, but the headlines don't tell that story.
No, they
the
don't.
headlines tell you that because of tariffs, the plant will quit making SUVs for Canada. They'll quit making them. I mean, these jobs are in big trouble now. Oh, not affected at all? Oh, sorry. I don't read AL.com. I just looked at the headline.
It's just, so one of my favorite, listen, I may do a segment on the show right after we get off the Grand Council that there's trolling and then there's Trump trolling. Trump trolling is like next level. And yesterday, Trump had the Canadian Prime Minister, Mark Carney, in the Oval Office. And right there, while he was sitting there, Carney says, we build vehicles. We go back and forth across the border, half built in the U.S., half built in Canada. And Trump goes, yeah, the problem is we don't want your Canadian cars. Right there in front of him. And I'm thinking, he's staying the course on this. He's seeing negotiations being made. I still think that we're never going to get favorable press from the liberal media, but I think we're probably within the next 30 to 45 days going to start seeing a rollout of one negotiated trade agreement after another. Jeff, your thoughts?
Yeah, that's got to come soon. I don't think it could go on like this forever. That's just the reality. Gravity's going to sit in at some point, and the media are going to start piercing. And you start seeing headlines about any kind of job loss or whatever. But no, I think like the AL.com thing is kind of just par for the course there. That they're not going to tell the good side of the story, but that's what they're being told by their masters in New Jersey or New York or wherever the corporate headquarters is of how to report on this.
Your own question, Dale. What's your thought?
It's just frustrating because, if you read that, you're going to think your jobs are in trouble.
Exactly.
And they're not. It's a lie.
They're not. It's a lie. Quick question. Since Jeff's in the State House, I'm going to ask him. So Birmingham Waterworks Board, the bill passed to actually revise the most corrupt organization in the state of Alabama, a place where basically money goes to die. And it's still sitting on the governor's desk unsigned. Now, it's only been 24 hours, but are we looking at a pocket veto, or is she going to sign that thing? Jeff, what do you know?
She just signed it
Did she
an
really?
hour ago.
About an hour ago?
Told, yeah.
Okay.
About an hour ago, she signed it. So it's now we'll see what happens. Well, the suspicion was that they were slow walking it because there was some kind of deal making going on between her office and the Birmingham Waterworks, but that I'm told was not the case at all. They just wanted to make sure all the I's are dotted and T's were crossed before the governor signed it.
Okay, fair enough. Dale, you got a thought on it?
Well, I'm glad to hear that because I had $1 that I wanted to buy the Birmingham Waterworks board with because I hear they're trying to sell it. I was going to offer $2
for $1. Can we start a bidding war? I think that'd be huge. I'll go $1.50. Why not? All right, last question, round two. Jeff, what do you got?
And we just kind of settling for some small ball incrementalism here in this Alabama legislature. Think about this.
Yeah.
What is going to be the highest achievement is going to be like the Birmingham Waterworks, and that's a heavy lift, but it doesn't really impact a lot of people's lives outside of the Birmingham metro area. And then you think of the other things that we're really celebrating, that they broke the filibuster, that they clotured Democrats finally, and it took 5 years to cloture these guys, and they're not like big sweeping changes. They're just kind of changes to the Archives and History Board or some immigration statute requirement with driver's license or something like that. And I think it's just such small potatoes.
Yeah, we got about 1 minute. Dale, you want to weigh in on that? What's the big ticket item this year? Anything?
No, I think you're right. It's small ball. Look, they've taken a lot of big swings over the last couple of years. I think a lot of people are just frustrated. I hear in Jeff's voice and from talking to him about some of the taxation stuff. I think that people are just kind of irritated with that. We've seen our education budget continue to grow. Yeah, they got school choice, but did it go far enough? Those are just the questions. Should it be going farther and more getting done with a super majority, yes. I mean, that's as simple as it is. So people are frustrated.
I think one of the things that will be said is that this was the year when things that could have happened didn't happen. We didn't have gambling this year, finally. We didn't have a few other things come across that we didn't need to see. So maybe part of what we never really know the story on is what didn't come to the floor. But I share your frustrations. I really think this was the session in which they missed the ball. It's a swing and a miss, nothing to see here. It feels kind of tepid, and that's where we are. All right, appreciate you both. That's Jeff Poor, Dale Jackson, and little old me, the Grand Council, every Wednesday. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll be right back. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. I'm talking about this show. It goes from Huntsville back to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back to Gadsden. All the way down to that loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the border from there to what we now get to call, once again, Fort Benning, because it ain't no woke no mo. And then big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi thrown in just for good measure. And that's just the radio. That's just the radio. Then there's the online presence with all you folks that stream the show, and we appreciate you. Every one of y'all. I got to remind you guys, by the way, the Grand Council that we do at the top of the third hour of every Wednesday show with Jeff Poore and Dale Jackson is sponsored for you by DeKalb MD. That's DeKalb MD Healthcare Simplified. Now, what do I mean by that? So DeKalb MD is a direct primary care provider, right? They're your doctor. They got a network of clinics in Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, 2 locations in Chattanooga. All my Chattanooga listeners, 2 locations in Chattanooga for DeKalb MD. And here's the deal. They operate on a monthly membership. Can you imagine this? No insurance. You pay $75 a month, kind of like a gym membership, and you get like unlimited access to your doctor. You get longer visits with your provider. You get same day or next day scheduling. You get a direct phone number so you can call or text them even after hours. They'll even mail their prescriptions to your house. So listen, DeKalb MD, they like to say they work with you, not your insurance. So it's DeKalb MD, primary care with you in mind. I'm going to give you their website because if you want to make an appointment, just go on their website and schedule a time. I really encourage you to do it. DeKalb MD at www.dekalb, that's DEKALB, DeKalbMD.com. That's DeKalbMD.com. And please tell them you heard about it on Rightside Radio. Sponsors of the Grand Council. All right, we got time. We're gonna do a little different here. We got a little fun. You ready? So I said it a moment ago in the Grand Council, there's trolling and then there's Trump trolling. It's next level. Trolling, and then there's Trump trolling. I've got a piece here I pulled from U.S. News and World Report that came out in December that said Donald Trump is returning to the world stage and so is his trolling. And yes, it's true. What I mean by that is he is not afraid to poke, to prod, to say a little something, to get people's ire or to get under their skin. And truthfully, what he really does is the man lives rent-free inside of liberal heads. He just does. And it's hilarious. And I think part of it is, even more so than before, he's got a sense of humor. He really does. People I've talked to that know him say he's actually really funny in person. He's very personable. And so he's got this kind of wicked sense of humor that comes out. And part of it is in trolling. He's not afraid to poke. So I got a few sound clips. I'm going to call up number one first. Like, for instance, I mentioned it the other day, or on the Grand Council a while ago. He had the Prime Minister of Canada, the brand new guy, Mark Carney. Now, keep in mind, Mark Carney ran for office as the "I'll get Trump" guy. You know, the conservatives I wished had taken the office. I wanted Polyev to win the Canadian Prime Minister's race. But we got Mark Carney, who's an avowed liberal, who basically ran his race on the idea that I will not let Trump push us around. You watch me. I'm going to be the Mr. Anti-Trump Canadian Prime Minister. So he comes and he sits in the Oval Office. He's very humble, Mark Carney. He starts saying, here's the things that we're going to work together. It's going to be great. It's going to be fine. And then cars. And then Trump spoke. Go ahead and play it.
We are the largest client of the United States in the totality of all the goods. So we are the largest client of the United States. We have a tremendous auto sector between the two of us, and the changes that made have been helpful. 50% of a car that comes from Canada is American. That's not like anywhere else in the world. And to your question about is there one thing? No, this is a bigger discussion. There are much bigger forces involved, and this will take some time and some discussions, and that's why we're here, to have those discussions, and that is represented by who's sitting around the table.
See, the conflict is, and this is very friendly. We're not. This is not going to be like we had another little blow up with somebody else. That was a much different. This is a very friendly conversation, but we want to make our own cars. We don't really want cars from Canada, and we put tariffs on cars from Canada, and at a certain point, it won't make economic sense for Canada to build those cars. And we don't want steel from Canada because we're making our own steel, and we're having massive steel plants being built right now as we speak. We really don't want Canadian steel, and we don't want Canadian aluminum and various other things because we want to be able to do it ourselves. And we, because of, past thinking of people, we have a tremendous deficit with Canada. In other words, they have a surplus with us. And there's no reason for us to be subsidizing Canada. Canada's a place that will have to be able to take care of itself economically. I assume they can. I will tell you that
I assume they can.
Trudeau, when I spoke to him, I used to call him Governor Trudeau. I think that probably didn't help his election. But when I spoke to him, I said, so why are we taking your cars? Why are we taking we want to make them ourselves. I mean, I said, and if the price of your cars went up, or if we put a tariff on your cars of 25%, what would that mean to you?
Let's go ahead and stop it there. So first of all, he's also not afraid to troll right to their face, because the Prime Minister of Canada is sitting next to him while he's saying all this. Well, we don't want Canadian cars. We don't want Canadian steel. In fact, you know what? I assume Canada can stand on its own.
I wish you guys could see Carney's face while he's saying all this.
Carney is sitting there thinking, my advisors told me, don't blow up. Don't let him get under your skin. Don't let it happen. Dude, you're sitting on his turf right now. If you want to invite him up to Canada, go right ahead, and you can try that in your office. But I'm pretty sure it'll go exactly the same way. I'm here in your office. I don't mind talking to the Canadian press. They're not very impressive. But I just want to say right here in Canada, we don't want your cars. I mean, that to me cracks me up.
And that didn't even get his best troll, in my opinion, of him talking about never say never.
Oh, that was great. That was awesome. So tell that story if you want to. Go ahead.
Trump was asked by a reporter about Canada becoming the 51st state.
Yeah.
And Carney goes, well, I can just tell you, Canada is not for sale and will never be for sale. And Trump, with a smirk on his face, goes, oh, never say never.
Right there in front of the cameras, sitting next to the Prime Minister. There's other things he's done and trolled that I thought were hilarious. It gets under their skin when there's things like memes that come out. I don't know if you saw this or not, but a meme came out on Sunday. So Star Wars fans like to say, may the 4th be with you on the day before the Cinco de Mayo celebration. So may the 4th be with you. So Trump sends out a meme, and then the left gets all over it, because there's a meme picture of a muscly, like bodybuilder size Trump, bronzed and holding a lightsaber. And what was hilarious was he says, happy May the 4th to all, including the radical left lunatics who are fighting so hard to bring Sith lords and murderers and drug lords and dangerous prisoners and well-known MS-13 gang members back into our galaxy. You're not the rebellion, you're the empire. May the 4th be with you. It was hilarious. You know what the response is? He's carrying a red lightsaber. That's the bad guys. He's a Sith Lord. He's really a Sith Lord. It's like they cannot even handle the meme of a lightsaber. They can't do it. It's just...
I have to be honest, my first reaction when I saw that was like, oh, come on. Nobody on Trump's staff caught it was a red saber. They knew they knew what they were doing.
Is he living rent-free in your head, too?
Yeah. I'm like, was this intentional? Or...
Oh, JP. All right, so let me ask you this: as he continues to just own them, like bought and paid for, there's also a meme that really, I saw it. I thought, I don't know that I would have advised this, but we have a meme of the president as if he's the Pope. He's wearing papal garb, the robes and the hat, and it's a picture of it. So here they are working to select the new Pope right now in the conclave, and all of a sudden a picture comes out of Trump as the Pope. So Fox News' Jackie Heinrich tried to question him on this during a press conference about other things. And He could care less. He trolled her. He trolled the media. All of them. You got clip number 2? Play it.
Mr. President, some Catholics were not so happy about the image of you looking like the Pope.
Oh, I see. You mean they can't take a joke? You don't mean the Catholics. You mean the fake news media. Not the Catholics loved it. I had nothing to do with it. Somebody made up a picture of me dressed like the Pope, and they put it out on the internet. That's not me that did it. I have no idea where it came from. Maybe it was AI, but I know nothing about it. I just saw it last evening. Actually, my wife thought it was cute. She said, "Isn't that nice?"
Question about
Actually, I would not be able to be married, though. That would be a lot. I'd have to the best of my knowledge, popes aren't big on getting married, are they? Not that we know of. No. I think it's the fake news media that, they're fakers.
My question, though, sir, was about
Then he
the
blows
fact
her
that it was
off.
put out on the White House account, even though it was AI generated, it was a joke, it was a meme. Does it at all diminish the substance of the official White House account to have it go out on that particular
Give me a
channel?
break. It was just somebody did it in fun. It's fine. Have to have a little fun, don't you?
And then next question. He just went on to the next person. He just left her standing there. So Caroline Leavitt, not to be outdone by her boss, the president, she actually called it Trump trolling. And I didn't realize this till I was looking at the article getting ready for the show today, but I coined Trump trolling, and now I'm realizing that Caroline Leavitt is saying it. So, okay. Maybe she said it first. I don't know. Dateline April 29th, so I guess she did. But she said there's talk about hats are being sold that say Trump 2028. And she laughed to the press corps who were asking about what's going on. Was he saying is he gonna defy the Constitution? What's happening? She laughed off the notion that President Donald Trump was going to seek a third term in office, although she did say Trump 2028 hats are flying off the shelf and you can buy them for $50 a piece. And she said, due to high demand, please allow 10 to 14 days for businesses to process the shipping. Oh my gosh. Listen, truthfully, the man's not boring. There is that. He is something every day. But what's amazing to me, though, is we just came out of an administration where the press is starting to trickle out their admissions that the guy who was in the Oval Office didn't even know what day it was, much less could have a sense of humor about things. How many times did Biden go to a podium and we just held our breath to waiting to see what was going to happen? Walk up on a stage and not know what's going on. Now you've got a president who's actually got not only his wits about him, but he's witty while he does it. And I find that to be refreshing. And I don't know that the Pope thing was, the thing he should have done, but I do know this. The man can take a joke, he can give a joke, and he's living rent-free inside liberals' heads. So you know what? I say more of it.
I'll say this about the Pope thing.
Yeah.
I can tell that the mainstream media doesn't. I'm not going to take it from people who aren't Catholics. Like, it's such manufactured outrage from people like CNN because
manufactured outrage.
That's what it is, because they're acting like they're appalled that Trump did this. They could care less about the Pope. A lot of them aren't even Catholics or Christians, in my opinion. Now, if you're a Catholic and you're offended by that, then okay, I don't agree, but I understand that. But from people from the mainstream media that are just acting like this is appalling when they're not Catholic or what, I'm not going to take it from you.
They're the same people who didn't care when the Catholic president Joe Biden named Easter the day of transgender visibility. They didn't care.
It's so fake, and my one half of my whole family is all Catholic, so I'm hearing that. It was not accepted well within the Catholic community. So, but that's fine. If you're Catholic, you can have that opinion. But if you're not, then I'm not going to hear it from you. I'm sorry.
Take me to a break, JP. We ran long on the Trump troll. Trump trolling. There's trolling, and then there's Trump trolling. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower. Jeff Rowe from Indiana checking in on the text line. He says, hey, Phil, do you think the Canadian Prime Minister will be back in the Oval Office anytime soon? No, I don't. He said, I think negotiations will be done over the phone from now on. Yeah, I think you're probably right, brother. Ed P. from Huntsville. Ed P. says, Phil, where were these hypocrites when Jesus at the Last Supper was being mocked by gays, lesbians, and trannies at the Paris Olympics? Yeah. The mainstream media's breathless reporting on this is truly disgusting. I would agree, Ed P., and I'd forgotten about that one, so yep, thank you for reminding me. John from Huntsville got the grades in, says Dale Jackson, Jeff Poor both get a solid A for their solid performances. JP and Phil both get an A double plus for their equally brilliant performances. However, today's winner is obviously Tammy from Town Creek with a perfect A triple plus. Congratulations and welcome to the right side, says John from Huntsville. John, thank you for that. Give some applause. That was a good text. That was the thing right there. Outstanding. Danny from Pinhook, Alabama. Danny from Pinhook says, look back at Ronald Reagan. Trump is Reagan times 10. Okay. Shag Nasty the atheist. What does he say? He says, if it was Trump with a crown of thorns on his head, you'd be offended. I probably would.
Yeah, but it wasn't.
But it wasn't.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, well, if the sky was green, it wouldn't be blue. Well, I guess that's true, but it's not. So, yeah.
What's the point?
Next, Brandy from Athens says, how many people throughout history have had to have special IDs to move around? As you know, being former military, they already know everything they need to know about me and have my DNA, but I don't have that little mark on my license, so I may be a risk. Brandy, I share your angst, and yes, it's true. All of it. Thank you for your service, by the way. What do we got here? Did I get that one already? Mike from Florence. I already got that one earlier, I do believe. Yes, I did. Gary from Decatur says, what I find interesting is that a Catholic cardinal has to be sworn to secrecy to elect a pope. Their word's not good enough, or they can't be trusted to keep a process secret? Well, I mean, I guess. I mean, they're still fallible people. And granted, there's going to be somebody going, what do you know, sir? And they say, well, we're waiting. We're doing it. And next thing you know, the trusted agent is the one who brought them their food, who's going back and telling people what happened. And that's not necessarily the cardinal letting it slip. That's other people too. So
I actually very much appreciate them keeping that sacred tradition alive.
I do too.
In this world, there's not enough of that, of people trying to preserve something that's like a sacred tradition of theirs. So I actually appreciate the lengths they go to for that. Yeah,
I do too. I get it. And I said earlier too, I don't mind the fact that they deliberate. I like that. In fact, I think that there are times when churches should probably deliberate more. And granted, a lot of churches have a pastor search committee, or the deacons gather and they have to vote and all these, and great. And then there are some churches for this Methodist church, they send you your next pastor. It's more like the military in a sense, where they assign you your pastor and they send them in from the conference. But you would hope that the conference is doing what it can and not just promoting people like through the ranks, so to speak. Anyway, Keith from Parts Unknown, that's what it actually says. Keith from Parts Unknown says, my wife had to do an eye exam to get her star ID. Really? Is that for a driver's license? That's really, or was it because it had that probably because she had to have a driver's license and it came with a star, but not enough. I don't know. All right, listen, we got about 30 seconds, but I will just tell you that, star ID is real. Go ahead and get her done. And as much as I gripe about it, and I do gripe, it is my sacred right to gripe. But the reality is we're going to get it and we're going to be fine. But keep your eye on it, because to me, it's a slippery slope and we got to be careful of this. Because the more we require people just to have the ID to do something simple like travel, well, it gets a little dicey. I'm not talking about travel abroad. I'm talking about travel inside your own country. It's not supposed to be that way. In the meantime, I will say this, as I always do. Y'all, there's more of us than there are them. God is still very much on his throne. Y'all stay in the fight. We'll see you tomorrow.